Hi, everyone, and welcome to A Balancing Act, a podcast devoted to helping families navigate dementia. I'm Kelly Burtonshaw. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. If your aging relatives are anything like my parents, you've probably discovered that getting them to wear their hearing aids or their glasses isn't always as simple as it sounds. I remind them, I explain why they need them, but before long, I'm having the same conversation all over again. And it's frustrating because what seems like a simple, small daily task can become problematic for everyone involved. But there's another reason we need to pay attention to this. Multiple studies have found that untreated hearing and vision loss have both been linked to an increased risk of cognitive decline and dementia. That doesn't mean hearing loss or poor vision are the primary cause of dementia, but it does tell us something very important. The brain relies on good, clear sensory information to function, and when that information begins to fade, the brain has to work much harder to understand the world around it. So today, I want to look at why hearing and vision matter so much to brain health, why dementia makes wearing these devices much more complicated than we might expect, and how understanding those changes can help us respond with empathy. We often think of hearing as something our ears do, and vision as something our eyes do. But in reality, the ears and the eyes simply collect information. The brain does the real work. Every room you walk into requires the brain to organize the incoming information, decide what matters, and make sense of it all. And most of the time, we don't even notice that work because healthy brains do it automatically, and they do it in milliseconds. But when hearing or vision begins to decline, that process becomes much more difficult. The brain is no longer receiving complete information, so it begins filling in the gaps. But that extra effort doesn't happen for free. It draws on the same mental resources we use for attention, memory, language, and problem solving. Even basic everyday activities can become mentally exhausting. Also, over time, that lack of sensory information changes how confidently the brain can interpret the environment and the situation. The brain is constantly trying to answer simple questions like, what am I hearing? Who's talking? And even, is this situation safe? When the information reaching the brain is incomplete, those answers become less certain. That uncertainty can increase confusion, make everyday situations feel overwhelming, and sometimes contributes to anxiety or agitation because the brain is trying to interpret the world with missing information. Think of trying to play chess without knowing all of the rules. The brain also follows an important principle, often known as use it or lose it. Communication between different parts of the brain, neural networks, become stronger when they are used regularly, and they gradually weaken when they're not. So when hearing or vision declines, those parts of the brain are simply not being stimulated the way they once were. Over time, that reduced activity can contribute to changes in the structure and function of those networks, which helps explain why uncorrected hearing and visual loss can have effects that reach far beyond simply hearing and seeing less. There's another part of this that is just as important. When it becomes difficult to hear conversations or clearly see people and the environment around you, people gradually withdraw because conversations become tiring and social situations become so much harder to follow. Social interaction is exercise for the brain. When sensory loss begins limiting those interactions, the brain can lose the cognitive stimulation that comes from staying connected with other people and increasing the risk for isolation, loneliness, and depression. So when we talk about hearing aids and glasses, we're talking about so much more than just being able to hear or see better. We're supporting overall brain health by maintaining relationships, a sense of belonging, and well-being. Before we continue, if you're finding this conversation helpful, I'd like to ask you for a small favor. Please take a moment to follow this podcast so you don't miss future episodes. It really helps move us up on the list of podcast options, and that way we can reach more families struggling with a loved one's dementia. You can also join the conversation on our Facebook page, where I share additional resources, updates, and support for families navigating dementia. You'll find the link in today's show notes. And if you'd like to support A Balancing Act through a donation, click on that Buy Me a Coffee link. You can also find that in today's show notes. Most importantly, I want to take this moment to thank you for spending time with me today and for being a part of this community. Now, let's get back to the episode. Now we add another layer. The very abilities someone depends on to successfully use hearing aids or glasses are often the same abilities dementia begins changing. Memory may no longer remind your loved one that they need the device. Reasoning may no longer connect the device with the benefit it provides. And their problem solving may no longer be able to identify why something feels uncomfortable or what needs to be adjusted. From our perspective, it may look like stubbornness or pride. From their perspective, the situation often feels very different. They may not remember why you're handing them a hearing aid. They may not understand why you're asking them to wear glasses. All they may know is that something feels unfamiliar without being able to explain what that is. And as dementia progresses, the brain misinterprets sensory information, causing confusion. So their first instinct is to remove the devices. That's why repeating the same explanation or continuing to nag them about wearing their devices rarely solves the problem. And once we understand that, our responses naturally begin to change. So what can families do? Instead of asking your loved one to do more thinking, look for ways to reduce how much thinking the task requires. Predictable routines become more valuable than repeated reminders because routines often remain much longer after new learning becomes difficult. A hearing aid that's part of the same morning routine every day requires much less memory than one that's introduced randomly throughout the day. The same idea applies to problem solving. The more we can simplify the process by making sure devices are comfortable, working properly, and easy to find, the less we ask of a changing brain to solve problems it may no longer be able to solve independently. And it also helps to link certain activities to wearing these devices. Dad, I know you want to watch that baseball game. Mom, we have that doctor appointment today, and I know you want to hear what he has to say. Or you know what? The grandkids are coming over, and they have so much to show and tell you. Start small, then keep building. Perhaps the biggest change is how we interpret your loved one's behavior. If your loved one is repeatedly moving that hearing aid or leaving their glasses on the table, try thinking of that behavior as information rather than resistance. Their actions may be telling us that something isn't working, and our job becomes understanding what the brain is struggling with instead of simply asking it to try harder. Ultimately, this really isn't about glasses or hearing aids. It's about helping your loved ones stay connected to the people, places, and experiences that give their lives meaning and keep their brains working. And those are worth protecting. I'm including some excellent resources in today's show notes with more ideas for ways to keep those hearing aids in and the glasses on. And if you have any questions, please message me on our Facebook page. That's what I'm here for. The link is also in today's show notes. And as you are trying to help your loved one with these devices, please give yourself this grace. No one is perfect at this. No one. You're doing the best you can. You're doing it from a place of love. And that is enough. I'm Kelly Burtonshaw, and it was my pleasure spending time with you today. Please, keep in touch.
Hi, everyone. I'm Peggy Bright, producer of this podcast. Kelly and I are working hard to bring you an up-to-date, reliable podcast to help you and your family navigate a loved one's dementia. Each episode is carefully crafted using evidence-based research. We also include a variety of practical caregiving solutions. We hope you'll take a moment to hit the follow button in the upper right-hand corner of the podcast homepage. By following this podcast, you are helping us build a supportive community families can access anytime. Let's face dementia together, because no one should walk this journey alone. Thank you for choosing a balancing act.